going to look at some of the skills involved in undertaking a traditional single pitch climb, one with leader place protection. This type of climbing differs from sport climbing, where a bolt would already be in situ in the rock to protect you, in that we're going to use pieces of gear such as these nuts for the leader to protect themselves as they're climbing upwards, whilst they're belayed by a partner at the other end of the rope on the ground. In Britain we have a very rich history to draw upon. The whole area of traditional climbing began with one simple rule: the leader must not fall off, because there was no way of protecting them whilst they climbed upwards. After time they began to understand they could use natural features of the rock, such as spikes and chockstones, to protect themselves, and it wasn't long before people were creating artificial means of protecting that lead climber. Initially these were things like engineering nuts that were inserted into the rock, and nowadays we have passive equipment like these nuts or rocks that we can insert in, that are tested to a high level, very strong, and we know they'll protect the leader should they take a fall. So we can choose the climb that we want to do with the aid of a rock climbing guidebook such as this one. The whole country is covered by a really good system of climbing guidebooks, and they enable us to understand the level of difficulty of the climb we're going to undertake and where the route goes. There are often diagrams that show us precisely where the line is, or good descriptions that we can learn to read and understand to tell whereabouts it is we're going to climb. Once I've chosen the difficulty of the climb I want to undertake and had a look at the line of the route, I need to start thinking about the equipment I need to carry on it. Passive protection is climbing equipment with no moving parts, such as these metal shapes, which are known as rocks, wires, or nuts. I'm going to carry a selection of different sizes with me. They come in sets of 1 to 10 or even 1 to 14. And I've split them up on carabiners so that I have small, medium and large on different clips. When I put them on my harness, I'm distributing them so that I have a variety of sizes available, no matter which side I need to reach for and which hand I need to use to take gear off of the harness. I'm going to keep this gear quite near to the front, because these are my principal tools for protecting myself when I'm undertaking the climb. I'm also going to carry a selection of these spring-loaded camming devices. I have a variety of different brands and makes here, Camelots and Friends. These are ideal for cracks where the sides are completely parallel, and along with my nuts will give me the widest range of protection placements possible. They are slightly more complex and need a little more skill to place than the nuts do, so I'm going to put them as my second line of protection, and they'll rack on my harness just behind where my nuts are sitting, again spread out evenly on either side. I'm also going to carry a selection of these extenders or quick draws. Their job is to connect the protection to the rope. Correct use of these will ensure there's no friction holding the climber back and prevent gear being lifted out by the rope running as the climber makes their way up the route. I'm going to carry a number of these appropriate to the length of the climb I'm going to undertake, and every piece of protection that I place will need to have one of these attached, so they need to be quite accessible. I'm going to rack mine just behind the protection on my harness. I'm also going to carry a couple of particularly long ones, just in case I have protection well off to the side of the normal line of the route. The extra length of the extender will prevent the friction appearing in the system. So the last equipment I'm going to carry today is the gear that I need to create a belay at the top of the route to safely bring my partner up. Now, I'm not going to need this equipment when I'm actually climbing, so I'm going to place it even further back on my harness, out of the way, until it's needed at the top. So this equipment's going to include my belay plate, a couple of screw gate carabiners, and possibly some slings to use on spikes, threads or blocks at the top of the crag. The rope is very much my lifeline, so I'm going to take great care with it. I'm going to put it somewhere neatly and tidily, and preferably somewhere dry, where it's not going to be dirty or stepped on by my partner. one end well off to the side so that I don't bury it with the rest of the rope. Flaking process is important. The rope is neatly stacked now with an end that will lift easily off the top that I can use to lead on. That makes sure there's going to be no tangles and no problems as I make my way up the route. At some point in the process I need to consider a good warm-up. In the case of this crag, the 15-minute uphill walk has helped elevate my heart rate. By undertaking some easy bouldering along the base of the crag, this will give me an element of dynamic stretching, which should also help prevent injury and improve my performance on the climb. Before we can begin, both the climber and the belayer are going to need to tie into the ends of the rope. In this case we're going to use a rethreaded figure of 8 knot with a stopper on top. So before I can actually climb, my partner's now going to put me on belay. A last piece of good practice at this point will be just before I climb for each of us to check that our harnesses are correctly fitted, our knots are correctly tied, and that the belay plate is both done up and correctly orientated. This final step just ensures that no errors or mistakes have crept into the system. So having chosen my route, racked up, tied on, and done my body checks with my partner, I'm now ready just to enjoy the climbing.
Cool. Okay mate, climbing ready?
Climbing. Once I've completed my climb and arrived at the top of the crag, I'm going to have to construct a belay both to keep myself safe and to bring my partner up on. I've established the general area I want to construct my belay in, directly back away from the edge of the crag, above where my partner's going to be coming up. I've got my first piece of gear in, and that's now acting as another running belay whilst I move around at the top of the crag and build the rest of my belay. Here I don't have enough screw gate carabiners to use on every placement, so I'm going to split and extend it down into two and place the two snap gates back to back to give it strength and in effect a solid bar of metal on all sides. So whilst I could work with each anchor, which is part of my belay setup, independently, what I'm going to do is pick up the rope in between the two of them. Now I can work the rope through the system as I make my way back to the edge of the crag, which just gives me a little more speed and efficiency. In this case I'm using two pieces of gear for my belay. I'm happy that they're both very good placements. I'd rate them 4 or 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. Anything less than that, I'd be looking for a third anchor to involve in my belay. The final position I end in is crucial. I need to make sure there's a straight line from the anchors, through the belayer, to the climber. If there's any bend in that line and my partner falls, I'll be pulled into a straight line. I need to make sure I go there before that happens. As I approach the edge of the climb, the position I want to end up in is seated. This will give me maximum stability and lets me also look over the edge and see my partner as they climb up towards me. Sitting down gives me another advantage. It's going to mean that my anchors are definitely going to be higher than my hips, which keeps my anchor, belayer, climber straight line going, both in a vertical plane as well as the horizontal plane. As another point, I've got quite a lot of rope in my hands here. As I come to the edge of the crag, I need to take a great deal of care. Should I slip and tumble over the edge, letting go of these ropes, I'll fall quite a long way. I'm just going to take it nice and easy and go carefully. As well as having my anchor, belayer and the force from my climber in a straight line, the other issues I have to consider with my belay are the angles between the arms of the belay. So 60 degrees is an ideal maximum. At 90 degrees, I'm beginning to put too much force onto each individual arm of the belay. By the time I'm getting to 120, I'm definitely out of the safe zone. That angle's too wide. I can use my hand as a handy template. Each of the arms of my belay is a separate bight of rope. I'm going to seal this into a closed loop using a clovitch knot. The beauty about the clovitch is it's so easy to adjust the tension. Now I'm happy with the angle between the different sections of my belay. I need to make sure the belay arms are equalized. That means there's the same tension on both of them. I'm going to do this by taking a little rope through one of the clovitches. The importance of the equalization is that if one part of the belay should fail or collapse when subject to a load, the other one is already sharing some of that force, and it won't receive a sudden jerk or shock load, which might cause it to fail as well. At this stage, I can let my partner know that I'm safe and they can take the rope out of their belay device. Jake, safe! Once he's taken the rope out of the belay device, I'm going to take in all the slack in between us. When the rope comes tight between us, it's time for me to put my belay plate on and get ready to bring him up. I'm going to attach my belay device to the rope loop again. It's strong enough and it's very comfortable and convenient in the event of a fall from my partner. The rope must go into the belay device in the correct orientation. I need to be able to both take in rope and lock off in the event of a sudden loading from a fall. At this stage, it just remains for me to let my partner know that it's time for him to climb. Jake, climb when ready. Having brought Jake up, all I've got to make sure now is that he moves to a safe position well back from the edge of the crag before I take him off belay.
Cool, safe there?
Safe.